In the 1950s, as the Cold War tensions between the US and the USSR heightened, the American military needed strategic targeting information. Some of this information was gathered through signals intelligence monitoring along the periphery of the Soviet Union. These listening posts, however, could not replace aerial imagery and electronic surveillance along and across Soviet borders. Consequently, throughout the 1950s, the United States Air Force launched its fleet of camera-equipped or electronic surveillance planes against Soviet targets from the United Kingdom, West Germany, and Greenland. Thule Air Base is about 1,500 kilometers from the geographic North Pole. It is the northernmost operational air base on Earth. Thule Air Base was constructed in secret under the code name Operation Blue Jay. Construction for Thule Air Base began in 1951 and was completed in 1953. Thule became a key point in American nuclear retaliation strategy. Strategic Air Command bombers flying over the Arctic presented less risk of early warning than using bases in the United Kingdom. In March 1956, Operation Home Run began from Thule Air Base. Under the overall command of Colonel William Meng of the 26th Strategic Reconnaissance Wing, 16 RB-47E and 4 RB-47H flew reconnaissance missions to detect and pinpoint ground targets to identify enemy radar and communication systems, airfields, port facilities and to gather reliable weather information on the Soviets' northern littoral region from the Kola Peninsula in the west to the Bering Strait in the east. 5 KC-97 Stratofreighter tankers at Thule were required to support this mission. Camera-equipped RB-47E was the basis for several reconnaissance models. They operated from most airfields that gave access to the USSR and often probed Soviet airspace. The long nose accommodated up to 11 cameras, possibly including an O-15 radar camera for low-altitude work, a forward oblique camera for low-altitude work, a K-17 3-angle camera for panoramic shots and K-36 telescopic cameras. RB-47H featured a distinctive blunt, rounded nose and sported blisters and pods for intelligence-gathering antennas and gear. They were designed to probe defenses and collect data on radar and communications signals. The bomb bay was replaced by a pressurized compartment, which accommodated CROs, or electronic warfare officers. Operational range of both these planes was 6,400 kilometers, average speed 885 kilometers per hour. The KC-97 Stratofreighter was an instrumental factor in providing Strategic Air Command with genuine intercontinental capability. It was introduced in 1950 using the Flying Boom in-flight refueling system. With operation range of 3,700 kilometers, cruise speed 370 kilometers per hour and payload 51,000 liters of transferable fuel, these tankers were vitally important to the worldwide Boeing RB-47 Stratojet strategic operations. Shortly after Arctic training, overflight missions to Soviet territory started in April 5. Target area was divided into 3 sectors, which would be covered by 9 aircraft. A typical reconnaissance mission involved an RB-47 aircraft and 3 KC-97 aerial tankers. The 3 tankers took off first. After a 2-hour head start, the faster RB-47 caught up with the tankers on Greenland's northeast coast, where 2 offloaded fuel to top off the reconnaissance plane's fuel tanks. The 3rd tanker was an air spare. For the next 7 hours, the RB-47 then made its assigned reconnaissance flight. In these years, Soviet Union already had developed early warning and ground control radars with 250 kilometers range of aircraft detection. To reduce the possibility of being tracked, radio silence had to be maintained. Pilots had to rely more on navigation charts, watches and compasses. Meanwhile, the KC-97 returned to Thule base, refueled, and again flied to rendezvous with the returning reconnaissance RB-47 above northeast Greenland. From Thule Air Base, multiple missions were performed per day, taking off from and returning to this single, snow-covered runway. Environmental conditions were divided into 4 phases, with one being a normal day for operations and activity. From there the weather progressed, or rather deteriorated, by degrees to Phase 4, which was a complete weather nightmare. The RB-47 averaged 10 hours and 4,500 kilometers in the air, unless unpredictable weather closed Thule. In that case tankers and the RB-47 had to additionally fly to one of 3 equidistant alternates, England, Fairbanks, Alaska, or Goose Bay, Labrador. Also there was one emergency landing field available to aircrews, consisting mostly of scraped ice and oil drums, set up at Nord, a Danish weather station on the northeast coast of Greenland, close to the North Pole, but it was never used. Missions encompassed the entire northern coast of the area south of Novaya Zemlya and its atomic test site, to the Chukchi Peninsula, and Anadyr and Providinia near the Bering Strait. Towns and military areas photographed included Dixon, Makarova, Chelyuskin, Nordvik, Olenjak, Tixi, Ambarchik, Anadyr, Maisschmitte, and Wrangel Island. The final mission of Project Home Run has been referred to as the massed overflight. It was conducted in early May by 6 RB-47E flying roughly parallel courses over the Chukchi Peninsula, focusing on the many military and naval facilities ringing the shores of the peninsula on either side of and supporting Providinia, and other installations in the area. It was executed without a hitch and without a reaction from the Soviets. All of the RB-47 landed at Eielson Air Force Base, Alaska, and returned to Thule Air Base the following day. Project Home Run concluded quickly following the final massed flight mission. All remaining aircraft departed Thule for the United States on May 10, 1956. From April 5 until May 10, the Home Run air crews flew 156 reconnaissance sorties against Soviet targets without a single person or airplane lost through mechanical failure, in an accident, or to Soviet action. Operation Home Run was the Air Force's largest and most sustained penetration operation against the Soviet Union during the Cold War. Its success was critical in obtaining important intelligence for the United States Air Force bomber fleet that, if needed, would penetrate the Soviet Union via an over-the-pole route.